Hello all, this is Al Finch. I am here today to show you how I might put together a Duskmourn House of Horror pre-release kit to play in a limited environment. I am planning on playing this against a zombie horde deck later on in honor of the upcoming Halloween season. I hope you enjoy this video and then look for me actually playing the deck that I build in a later program. Now, many of you are probably well acquainted with the Duskmourn House of Horror set. I actually haven't had much of an opportunity to play with this set. As more releases have come out these days, I found myself falling a little bit behind. So I haven't actually looked very closely at any of the cards. However, I do know its theme. We're focused on more modern or maybe 80s themed horror. So we'll put this together and hopefully get kind of an interesting look at the theme as we go through the cards. All right, so first order of business, whenever I'm assembling a limited deck, I often will open up the packs and sort the cards into their respective colors and other categories. So that's what I'm going to do now. I am going to probably fast forward the footage here, so we won't be taking a close, in-depth look at the cards until they're all correctly sorted. All right, very good. Now that we've got them sorted into color, now we can actually take a closer look at what we actually have here. One thing that I noticed as I was sorting into color is that we've got a fair number of multicolor cards and multicolored lands in the set. That sends to me a signal that we'll probably play at least a two-color deck, maybe more, for this particular set in order to get something that works pretty efficiently. We also have some tokens here that signal to me some of the actual mechanics. The locked doors, I presume, deal with something, the room mechanics. A flying token means there's something in the set, maybe relatively common, that grants flying. -1/-1 tokens, and the finality token. I'm presuming that means we won't be seeing very many +1/+1 counters, as they don't tend to mix -1/-1 counters and +1/+1 counters in the same set. So that is something to be aware of. It will be very interesting. Other things that I've learned over time is that they do have other hints at what you should do, often buried in the uncommons of the set. So we'll be taking a fairly close look at some of the uncommons, especially the multicolor uncommons, because it might tell you what themes you can build into. The rares, those are also going to be linchpins. So we need to isolate our rares and take a look at some of our uncommons here and discuss them in detail before we figure out which colors we're going to go with. Might as well start with the multicolor cards since there's so many of them. And take a look through here. Here was our pre-release individualized card here, Victor Valgoth's Seneschal. It's a one colorless, a white, and a black legendary creature, human warlock, 3/3. Keyword, eerie. Whenever an enchantment you control enters and whenever you fully unlock a room, surveil 2 if this is the first time this ability is resolved this turn. It's the second time each opponent discards a card. It's the third time put a creature card from the graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. All right, so it's a big signal to me that enchantments are important in this set, and we're going to probably have enough of them that it's going to trigger these eerie effects multiple times, potentially in a turn. All right. We have Thornspire Verge, Can tap for red or tap for green, but only if you control a mountain or a forest. All right, so that gives us some nice accessibility, at least in that color set. Shrewd Storyteller. All right, here's one of those uncommons that might be signaling something that we can do. It says one colorless, one green, one white. For the casting cost, it's a creature human survivor. I love that there's a creature type survivor. I haven't seen survivor on much other than one of my favorite cards, Varchild's War Riders, which would produce survivor tokens. I hope that there's survivor tribal. That would be pretty awesome. Anyway, survival. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Shrewd Storyteller is tapped, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Interesting. That kind of goes against what I was assuming. Maybe they don't care if +1/+1 and -1/-1 counters are on the field interacting with each other. They do have an unusual interaction, by the way. If you put a +1/+1 counter and a -1/-1 counter together, they just negate each other and disappear. All right, so, maybe in the green-white, we're going to be looking at survival tactics, where we're talking about putting out +1/+1 counters. Maybe in the white-black, it's the eerie tactics. Another double land. This one at common. Raucous Carnival enters tapped unless a player has 13 or less life. That is a nice improvement over the typical tap land, right? Presuming you aren't playing Commander, you may spend a good amount of time at 13 or less life when you're playing a game. All right, here's another rare. Nashi Searcher in the Dark. Blue, black, legendary creature, ret ninja wizard. Now, I hate to say this, but I couldn't tell what I was looking at in this picture, so I'm glad that it's got a type line here to tell me what I'm looking at. It's got Menace. Whenever Nashi Searcher in the Dark deals combat damage to a player, you mill that many cards. You may put any number of legendary and/or enchantment cards from among them into your hand. If you put no cards into your hand this way, put a +1/+1 counter on Nashi, and it's a 2/2 creature. All right, I wonder if mill's going to be a theme that we'll see a lot of, but there's the enchantments again. And then, of course, legendary cards. I've seen at least 2. They made them more and more common these days, I presume, to appeal to the Commander playing crowd. All right, Oblivious Bookworm. This one is blue-green. Another creature, human wizard. At the beginning of your end step, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card unless a permanent entered the battlefield face down under your control this turn, or you turn a permanent face up this turn. Does that mean that we have something like Morph in the set? That should be interesting. It's a 2/3 creature. Another land, this one green, red, coming into play tapped unless you have 13 or less life. Got a lot of support, I think, for multicolor in this set. Fear of Infinity, 1 colorless, blue and black. It's an enchantment creature. There's that enchantment theme that I'm looking at again. Nightmare, flying and lifelink. Fear of Infinity, can't block. Eerie, whenever an enchantment you control enters and whenever you fully unlock a room, you may return Fear of Infinity from your graveyard to your hand. So this one will work when it's in the graveyard. It's a 2/2 creature. All right, definitely enchantments are worth looking at now as I go through the other cards. Winter, Misanthropic Guide. 1 colorless, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green. Human Warlock. Legendary creature, Ward 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws 2 cards. Delirium, another key word in the set. As long as there are 4 or more card types among creatures in your graveyard, each opponent's maximum hand size is equal to 7 minus the number of those card types. And it's a 3/4 creature. All right, I think that there's probably got to be some more mill action in these cards then, if delirium is one of the keywords, or maybe discarding. If you've got a full hand, it'll be easy enough to discard. All right. And then Arabella, Abandoned Doll, red-green, legendary artifact creature toy. Whenever Arabella Abandoned Doll attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. Okay, again, this is another signpost. I'm guessing if you're doing red and white, you're probably going to have a number of small creatures, which is, to be fair, pretty on theme for red and white. It's a 1/3 creature, a toy. Interesting. All right, so with some of those rares and uncommons, signpost uncommons, I think they're called, in mind, we've got a better idea of what some of the themes are in the set. I'm going to now take a little bit of time to look through the other sets and maybe pull out some of the rares and uncommons for discussion, and then discuss what direction I'm going to go with if I'm making a sealed deck here. All right, now that I've had a chance to kind of glance through the black cards here, I've noticed a definite trend. There is a lot of creature removal, a lot of sacrifice, some things that allow you to discard as well. So definitely playing pretty heavily, I think, into the delirium component. Some of the highlights will include the Doomsday Excruciator. To me, this is just kind of your weird niche rare that you probably won't end up playing in limited because it's got 6 black in its casting cost. Might be more of a mono black build around me card. It's a demon, a 6/6 flyer, so pretty nasty in the limited environment. But it also puts you in a weird clock. When it enters, if it was cast, each player exiles all but the bottom 6 cards of their library face down. Then at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card. Looking at this thing, because you're drawing extra cards, you have a shorter amount of time before it decks you. You run out of cards and you lose the game. So a fun little kind of throwback demon with some downside attached to its big beefy body and a nice short-term benefit. I'm seeing this in a lot of the commons and uncommons, though, as an additional cost to cast the spell. You sacrifice creatures or enchantments that'll fill up your graveyard for that delirium requirement. There's another demon, Flying Trample. Vile Mutilator enters. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token enchantment, then sacrifices a non-token creature. Now, this thing looks like it's going to be a house. If I'm playing black, I might throw this one in, because, that's a pretty cool effect. There seems to be a lot of creature removal and strong creature removal. Exiling is probably going to be key to making sure you're not triggering delirium or getting rid of things that keep coming out of the graveyard. All right, we are going to have, I think, cards that refer to rooms throughout. We'll see if I actually have enough rooms. I didn't see any in this stack to care about it. Yeah, a lot of exile. Another of these miasma demons. No, I think it's slightly different from the... Yeah, it looks similar. They're playing with the same theme of demons here. Flying, when the miasma demon enters, you may discard any number of cards. Here it is, getting cards into your graveyard for that delirium. When you do, up to that many target creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Another potentially really useful card for clearing your opponent's side of the board. It's a board sweeper for small creatures. And not too badly priced at 4 black, 2 colorless, 5/4 flyer. More here, killing your opponent's creatures. Winter's Intervention deals 2 damage to a creature and you gain 2 life. Another Miasma Demon. And some big, beefy flying creatures in this set. So yeah, black, really good at creature removal and enchantment removal. Destroy target creature or enchantment, you lose 2 life. Interesting, black has become able to remove enchantments these days. All right, now I'm going to take a look at another color here. All right, now that I've looked through blue, I think I definitely need to take a look at that little insert so that I can get some ideas about what this set's focusing on. I think Manifest Dread is something that I need to know about. All right. I am going to make a guess here because I don't see anything referencing Manifest Dread. That maybe that is just manifesting something, and then and that's taking a card off the top of your deck, putting it face down, and you can turn it face up if it's a creature or enchantment, I'm guessing. But yeah, it says whenever you manifest dread on this particular creature here, put a card you put into your graveyard this way into your hand. Oh, okay. Yeah, I definitely need to do a little bit of lookup on manifesting dread because it goes into the graveyard. Weird. Okay. So there are definitely rooms, so we probably ought to talk about those. Here we have Underwater Tunnel and Slimy Aquarium. It's a split card, and it says you may cast either half. That door unlocks on the battlefield as a sorcery. You may pay the mana cost of a locked door to unlock it. So you get to choose a side to play and unlock, quote-unquote, I guess making it usable when you first cast it. And then you can pay later to unlock the other side. So on Underwater Tunnel, when you unlock the door, you surveil 2. And this one is when you unlock this door, manifest dread, then put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. Okay, so manifesting, I'm guessing we're getting 2/2 creatures face down, and then putting counters on them. Still need to know exactly what that has to do with the graveyard. Here's the other room that we have here. When you unlock this door, return up to 1 target creature to its owner's hand. It's the bottomless pool for 1 blue. And Locker Room. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. There's a lot of card draw in this set, at least compared to the stuff I'm used to seeing. We have some fast mana. It can only be used to do certain things, but the Creeping Peeper, 1 blue, 1 colorless, creature eye, one of my favorite subtypes, creature types, 2/1. You can tap to add a blue and use the mana to cast an enchantment spell, unlock a door, or turn a permanent face up. So, yeah, now we know kind of what blue cares about, right? Enchantments, unlocking doors, and manifesting stuff. So a lot of fun hints about what you're supposed to be doing. We've got some more eerie effects on the Scrabbling Skull Crab. 1 blue to get a crab skeleton. Kind of love that picture. 0/3. Whenever the enchantment you control enters and whenever you fully unlock a room, target player mills 2 cards. So helping out with that delirium aspect again. Let's see. Anything else? Oh, yeah. We've got a rare, and it looks like a pretty good one. 2 colorless, 2 blue, Enduring Curiosity, enchantment creature, Cat Glimmer. Very cute. So, Flash, so it means you can play it as an instant. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. When Enduring Curiosity dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's an enchantment and not a creature. So, if this one gets sacrificed, it still comes back into play and is still useful, keeping you drawing extra cards. That is pretty awesome. Yeah, the other stuff doesn't seem to really stand out. More card draw and the fear of failed test, 1 blue, 4 colorless. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. It's a 2/7. If you can get some evasion on this thing, very nasty indeed. All right. I'm going to take a look now at my green. All right, now that I've looked through green, we finally have figured out what Manifest Dread is. It's here. We'll start off with our Bashful Beastie. 4 colorless, 1 green, creature beast, 5/4 stats. When Bashful Beastie dies, Manifest Dread. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature and the other into your graveyard. Turn it face up at any time for its mana cost if it's a creature card. So it gives you a little more control over the typical Manifest mechanic where you can choose if it's a creature. It's a shame you can't turn it up if it is just an enchantment, but there's a lot of enchantment creatures, right? So at least there's that. Now we know. Also, it becomes very evident that Manifest is a main thing in green. Break the door down. 1 green, 2 colorless instant. Nice versatile card. Choose one. Exile an artifact. Exile target enchantment. Manifest Dread. So you can get a creature or remove artifacts and enchantments from the game. If I'm playing a green deck, it's probably going in there. Here we've got some classic green ramp effects, at least putting things into your hand, getting you some extra land, and a delirium effect on the Spineseeker Centipede. So I'm guessing, green-blue focuses a lot on getting stuff into the graveyard for delirium. Spineseeker Centipede enters, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. Then at Delirium, it gets +1/+2, has Vigilance as long as there's 4 or more card types among cards in the graveyard. So a useful card as you get deeper into the game. Something that helps you just Manifest Dread and then return a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If you're losing enchantments, it's a good way to get them back. Under the Skin, sorcery, 2 colorless, 1 green. And example of one of Green's rooms. The Greenhouse for 2 green and a colorless. It says lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. There's that focus on playing multicolor decks. And the Rickety Gazebo, 3 and a green. When you unlock this door, mill 4 cards, then return up to 2 permanent cards from among them to your hand. Good again for hitting that delirium. All right, the Cryptid Inspector is a nice support for the Manifest Dread. 2 colorless, 1 green, creature, elf, warrior, vigilance. Whenever a face-down permanent you control enters, and whenever Cryptid Inspector or another permanent you control is turned face up, put a +1/+1 counter on the Cryptid Inspector. So, yeah, it kind of helps you whenever you're manifesting stuff. 2/3, I kind of enjoy the flavor text. Please be dead, please be dead, please be dead. I've said that a lot watching old horror movies. More Greenhouse and Rickety Gazebo and another Cryptid Inspector. All right. Don't think I've got any rares out of green. Just some nice little support cards. All right. Let's take a look at red. All right, now that I've had a look through here, got some nice toys in red. This kind of classic effect that gets your creatures through the Ragged Playmate, 1 red, 1 colorless, tap once and tap the creature here. Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Useful if you've got little creatures that can't punch through, that you might also be able to pump after the fact. There's a 2/2 toy. I kind of like the toy sub-theme, so those haunted toys are fun. Menace seems to be a thing in red. Bedhead Beastie, 4 colorless, 2 red, Menace, Mountain Cycling, again supporting the multicolor theme, 5/6. Some late card draw on that guy. 5/3 for 3 and a colorless with reach is nothing to laugh at. This one, is that a rare? It's hard for me to tell what's rare and what's not when these symbols. I think that's a rare. 2 red, creature, human assassin, Razorkin Needlehead at first strike during your turn. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Razorkin Needlehead deals 1 damage to them. Stitch your eyes, stitch your skin, stitch your mouth into a grin, 2/2. Obvious reference to a Cenobite here if anyone's a Hellraiser fan. And great against all the card drawing that we're seeing in blue. Example of a red room, the ticket booth, 2 colorless, 1 red. When you unlock the door, Manifest Dread. So there's Manifest Dread showing up in red. Tunnel of Hate, 4 colorless, 2 red. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gains double strike until end of turn. So, yeah, good for pumping up things late game. Fear of Burning Alive, 4 colorless, 2 red. When Fear of Burning Alive enters, it deals 4 damage to each opponent. So, nice little thing that they made sure works in Commander. Delirium, so see some Delirium in red. Whenever sorcery control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard. Fear of Burning Alive deals that amount of damage to target creature that player controls. All right. So, yeah, if you burn your opponent, you can also get rid of their creatures with this thing. All right, this one, rare Enduring Courage. We've got the blue Glimmer being a cat, the red Glimmer being a dog. Guessing these are like helpful ghosts. 2 colorless, 2 red. Kind of wish they had made them spirits because, there's a lot of spirit tribal, not much Glimmer tribal. Anyway, when another creature you control enters, it gets +2/+0 till and gains haste until end of turn. When Enduring Courage dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's an enchantment. I bet there's a cycle of these things in the set. It's nice, all right? I think I like the blue one more, but it's nice. This is a red removal that exiles creatures and planeswalkers, so, keep stuff from hitting Delirium or helping your opponents too much. Scorching Dragonfire deals 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker, instant for 1 red and 1 colorless. Diversion Specialist, this one's probably helping you with Delirium. Human Warrior Menace, spend 1, sacrifice another creature or enchantment, exile the top card of your library. You can play it till end of turn, so helps you get stuff into your graveyard and replace it with a card draw, kind of, 4/3. All right, let's take a look at white. Lionheart Glimmer, all right, Cat Glimmer, 3 colorless, 2 white. You know what, I'm just going to go through this real quick. All right, upon looking at white, we've got some more survivor themes. We have some spirit and ghost themes. Nothing too shocking in here, though. Very much in character for white. The Lionheart Glimmer here is 3 colorless, 2 white. Enchantment creature, Cat Glimmer, ward 2. Whenever you attack, creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn, and it's a 2/5. So when this swings in, it's actually a 3/6. It's going to be a house. It's going to be hard for things to get it off the board, and it'll help your smaller creatures punch through. We've got a creature here with some plains cycling, so again, supporting that multicolor deck. 4 colorless, 2 white for spirit. I don't know why glimmers aren't spirits. It bothers me. Flying, the plane cycling, and a 4/5. So a nice kind of beefy creature to help hold off all those uncommon demons in the sky. Really like this card, Orphans of the Wheat, obviously Children of the Corn. 1 white, 1 colorless, creature human. Whenever Orphans of the Wheat attack, tap any number of untapped creatures you control. Orphans of the Wheat get +1/+1 till end of turn for each creature tapped this way, and it's a 2/1. I'm hoping there's some vigilance somewhere in this set to really support this. Not seeing too much of it yet. Return target creature card from graveyard to the battlefield and gaining 3 life. So just straight up improvement on the old resurrection spell. Some auras, so helpful with the sub-theme of eerie. They're relatively cheap. Put these things out. Sheltered by Ghosts appears, exile target or enters exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls. So it helps keep from activating their delirium and get something off the board at least temporarily. And gives the creature it's on +1/+0 lifelink and ward 2. So it keeps the creature from getting nuked almost immediately after you play this. So, well, of course, unless they play it in response. All right, here's our example. White Room, Grand Entryway, 1 white, 1 colorless. When you unlock this door, create a 1/1 white Glimmer enchantment creature token, and then the Elegant Rotunda, 2 colorless, 1 white. When you unlock the door, put a +1/+1 counter on each of 2 target creatures. So, yeah, helping build up the white weenie horde. Kind of a helper card, not particularly interesting, so I'm not going to read through it with you. I'm fond of this treatment, even if it doesn't really fit Magic, in my opinion, with the kind of TV set, unwanted remake, 1 white, uncommon instant, destroy target creature, its controller manifests dread. So they'll get a creature in return, possibly something fairly nasty that you don't know about that'll turn up. It's no Swords to Plowshares, it's no Path to Exile, but still a cool card. Not dead, just gone, it will come back. Note scrawled on a scrap of paper. Really love the art on this. So good flavor, even if it's not your typical Magic. Trapped in Screen, we've got our Poltergeist reference, 2 colorless, 1 white, enchantment ward 2. When trapped in the screen, enters exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment an opponent controls till trapped in screen. Trapped in screen leaves the battlefield. So good flavor on that. Maggie had always wanted to be on television. All right. Acrobatic Cheerleader. Here's our Survivor. 1 white, 1 colorless. Survival at the beginning of your second main phase. If Acrobatic Cheerleader is tapped, put a flying counter on it. This ability triggers only once. I wonder if there's not a vigilance mechanic, more so that just things get nicer when you tap them. So Orphans of the Wheat paired with Acrobatic Cheerleaders might actually be kind of nice. And I've got a couple of them. So I'm highly tempted to play a deck with those things in it. Living Phone, another toy, 1 white, 2 colorless. When Living Phone dies, look at the top 5 cards, reveal a creature card with power 2 less, put it into your hand. Yeah, white definitely wants you to play small creatures. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. It's a 2/1. I had a couple of those. Okay. So, yeah, definitely seeing specific themes here. If you're playing red-white, you're playing lots of small creatures. They help each other out. You're playing blue-green, you're delirium and manifesting. Black-blue, you're going to draw a lot of cards, maybe discard and sacrifice things because you can offset it with the card draw. The white-blue, it's a little less evident. And looking back at these signposts, maybe, no, white-blue. Yeah. Let's take a look at the artifacts before I make any final decisions here. All right, well, so the artifacts are obviously here to help out your strategies. We have the saw here for 2 colorless, and it's equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0. Whenever the equipped creature attacks, you may sacrifice a permanent other than that creature or saw. If you do, draw a card. So good for stocking your graveyard for Delirium, and equip 2. I like the Malevolent Chandeliers, a 4/4 flying artifact creature for 6. It spends to put a creature from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library, activate only as a sorcery, so you mess up somebody's Delirium with this thing. Glimmerlight is an artifact equipment for 2. When Glimmerlight enters, create that 1/1 white Glimmer enchantment creature token, and it gets +1/+1. So, you know, kind of good for helping out those little creatures again. Equip 1. And then a Bear Trap, just kind of a nice surprise. If you don't have a lot of creature removal, you can flash this 1-cost artifact in, spend 3, tap it, sacrifice it, and deal 3 damage to a creature. So, some nice stuff, but nothing spectacular. All right, I'm going to pause for a moment here, consider what my build is going to be, put my deck together, and then discuss why I chose that. And we're back. As you might be able to tell from the face card here on my deck, I have chosen to go with a red and white color combination for my sealed deck. Now, a fair number of reasons why I did this. I could have very easily, I think, gone with a blue-black or a blue-green combination, just based on the sheer amount of card draw that was available in those combinations. However, didn't enjoy those themes as much. I thought that some of the cards that I had in red and white were much more interesting. So it may not be the most effective build, but I think this is going to be the most interesting build for me. I'm going to go ahead and go through, give you some highlights on in the deck here. This is the card that I really chose to focus on in the build, Arabella, Abandoned Doll. We mentioned it earlier, but I'll review it again. It is 1 red and 1 white mana to cast, legendary artifact creature, toy. Whenever Arabella, the Abandoned Doll, attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with a power 2 or less. She is a 1 power 3 toughness creature. So she counts for her own text. When she attacks, she'll do at least 1 extra damage to the opponent, and you'll gain at least 1 life. There are a number, as you might guess, of other 2 or less power creatures in this deck to also support her. Another thing that I have in here to support her is the Ragged Playmate, another artifact creature toy. This one is 1 red and 1 colorless. It can spend 1 mana, tap, and target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked. That works perfectly for Arabella. Okay, if I need to sneak her through an opponent's defenses, this is the way that I think I'll most often be doing it. Ragged Playmate's also a 2/2, so it plays right into Arabella's damage text there. There are other things that also help Arabella out in the deck. Some of them are creatures that I kind of laughed at first and ignored, but I need to talk about them now. This is the Hardened Escort. This one is 2 colorless and 1 white to cast. It's a creature human soldier. And whenever the Hardened Escort attacks, another target creature I control gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible to end of turn. Well, Arabella will gladly accept that indestructible clause on the attack. And it's a 1/3, so if it gets that +1/+0 bonus, it still counts as a creature power 2 or less. The Hardened Escort itself is a 2/4, so it also adds the amount of damage that Arabella, the Abandoned Doll, does. In retrospect, I shouldn't have poo-pooed the Hardened Escort. This is a pretty awesome card, given its rarity and its mana cost. 2/4, this thing's going to survive at least a couple of swings in. Somebody might have to waste some time double chump blocking it so that they make sure that my Arabella or another creature doesn't end up getting indestructible every turn it attacks. I have a couple of Hardened Escorts in here, so if they both swing together, they can give each other the bonuses. A couple of 3/4 Indestructibles swinging in is pretty difficult to deal with sometime. Some other things that might help with Arabella include some of the enchantments that we might have in here. We have the thing that gives it ward. What was that? Sheltered by Ghosts. Enchant creature you go, it gets lifelink, ward 2, and creature gets +1/+0. It's like it was meant to go on Arabella. Arabella continues to just be a 2/3 with this one on, is harder to target. And lifelink, well, I mean, this thing's going to be doing a lot of damage well beyond its stats, and the lifelink will give me life every time that it does damage to the opponent using its special ability and not just on its power. So it's pretty cool, especially considering that this also doubles as a removal effect, exiling a non-land permanent that an opponent controls until it leaves the field. So I consider that another good option in the deck. Not everything necessarily plays directly nicely with Arabella. We do have some large creatures in here. We have the Fear of Burning Alive. That's a 4 colorless, 2 red cast Nightmare. When it comes in, it deals 4 damage. And it says, whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, there are 4 more card types. Graveyard, Fear of Burning Alive deals that amount of damage to target creature the player controls. This does have a bit of synergy, actually, with Arabella, even though it's not a power 2 creature, because Arabella, she does damage to opponents when she swings, even if they block her. Will be able to do some extra damage to a creature that the player controls when she's swinging and Fear of Burning Alive is out. Other large creatures, large casting cost items that we have in here include the Bedhead Beastie. This one has Mountain Cycling on it, so it's going to help us with our mana. We'll toss it early if we get it early. Has Menace, which means that it's hard to block. I kind of like having evasion on a big fat creature like this. We also have the Ghost, I believe. Where is it? Shepherding Spirits. This one is a 4/5 flyer with Plane Cycling. It can also be tossed into the graveyard early on or brought out later for the flying beatdown in the air. All 3 of those large creatures, if they get removed from the board and go to the graveyard, I can bring back with Emerge from the Cocoon. I'm especially relishing the idea of maybe Plane Cycling early on and then returning a creature like the Shepherding Spirits from the graveyard, gaining 3 life in the process. We do have plenty of removal in the deck as well. The Unwanted Remake made it in, not because I think it's a particularly great card, but because I just like the way it looks. And it is cheap. Destroying a target creature for 1 white mana is nothing to sneeze at. They get a creature back, and the creature might be worse, but at instant speed, you can use it in a pinch. I like the Trapped in the Screen an awful lot, but the fact that it's a Ward 2 means that it's hard to get it off the board, and we can get rid of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments with it. And they're exiled again, helping make sure that we're not enhancing their delirium count in the graveyard. The other bits of removal that I have here, I should have a couple copies of Scorching Dragonfire, which deals 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker. Yeah, a lot of the creatures in this set are relatively small, and so I also like the fact that it's got that exile clause on it, so those creatures don't come back if they've been damaged by this spell. Something that doesn't necessarily fit with the small creature theme is the Diversion Specialist, but I do like the fact that I can draw cards with it. Can spend one, sacrifice another creature or enchantment, exile the top card of your library, and play it till end of turn. If I've got something that's not helping me and I need something quick, I can use this. It's not at sorcery speed either, so I could potentially block with something as a chump block and then hopefully maybe get something like an instant to cast on the opponent's turn. Not guaranteed, but in a pinch it might help. We've got the Lionheart Glimmer, also doesn't necessarily help with the small creature thing. It is a 2/5, but it says whenever you attack creatures you control, get +1/+1 till end of turn. And it has Ward 2, so it's hard to remove. You can still use stuff like the toy that makes small creatures unblockable. You just have to remember to do it before you attack. Otherwise, that +1/+1 could bump your creatures up above 2 power. Another thing that you would think would be a non-bow with the toy that makes stuff unblockable is the Enduring Courage. But again, it's all on the timing. When another creature you control enters, it gets +2/+0 till end of turn, and then gains haste as well. If you have this come into play, or another creature come into play, rather, this is a trigger. It goes on the stack. You can activate the other card to make it unblockable, and then apply the +2/+0 and haste after that. So it's still rather good, and I don't think it's a mistake to put it in. I of course included the Orphans of the Wheat, which play right into the Arabella Abandoned Doll play style. Yeah, it's going to get bigger when it attacks, but it can help my other small creatures get evasion. I put in those 2 acrobatic cheerleaders that if they are tapped in the second main phase, they get flying. So that I thought was pretty cool. The Living Phone also plays into the small creature theme. I've got 2 of these, and if these die, they can actually help me dig and find the Arabella, or maybe one of the other small creatures that kind of rock, and get them into my hand. So I put both of these in here. You probably also saw the saw peeking from behind. The fact that this is equipment means that I can move it around on my creatures. I want to make something unblockable, I can move this off of it, make it unblockable, then put it back on, and it will do plenty of damage. Plus, sacrificing small other permanents to draw cards, not bad, especially if your board is full of stuff that's not helping you out, or maybe just sacrificing a Living Phone if I want to start digging for something a little more interesting. The Saw also, of course, plays into the Delirium component of the deck. That, you know, if I can sacrifice a permanent and get the right number of things in the graveyard, then that turns on the Fear of Burning Alive. I haven't mentioned this, but Ticket Booth also gives me a small creature at the beginning. That manifest creature is a 2/2. And then the Tunnel of Hate, when you attack, target attacking creature gains double strike. That does not pump that creature's power, so if it's a 2/2, it will not get above where it can be targeted for unblockability, and it will still cause Arabella to enhance her damage. Those are highlights of the deck. I think I've touched on almost every card in here. I think I've gotten pretty good setup. In terms of the land, I took the Raucous Carnival because I am playing white and red, and then I have 8 mountains and 8 plains in here. You might wonder why I chose that particular ratio. What I did is I went through and counted the pips, the number of red pips and the number of total white pips on all of my cards. And when I went through and counted these, I found that there were 16 white pips and 14 red pips amongst the entire deck. It's close enough to even that I thought having an even spread on my lands would work pretty well. If we do creature count, creature count comes out to about 15 or 16 if you count the card that manifests. If you end up looking at the little pamphlets that they include in the pre-release decks, this lines up almost exactly with their recommendation, between 15 and 18 creatures in your deck and 5 to 8 other spells. It's got recommended ratio of mana costs in there. I am not too worried about the mana costs. I think it skews a little high in here. Things like the Fear of Burning Alive, the Tunnel of Hate, and the Bedhead Beastie. These are all pretty expensive cards, yes, but they have effects that you can play that come out much earlier and are for cheap. Things like the Plane Cycling is useful early on, and the Ticket Booth only comes out for 3. So not too worried about my mana curve here. I think that worked pretty well as well. What did I leave out? Well, there are a couple of items here. The Rip Chain Razorkin. This one, to me, was fairly similar to the other 4 casting cost card, the Diversion Specialist. It's got more power. It's a 5/3, but it has reach instead of menace. And so that means on the attack, it can be chump blocked all day. It can sacrifice a land to draw me a card, but, you know, the Diversion Specialist can sacrifice permanents too, not necessarily a land, okay, but a creature or an enchantment, and it gets me a card as well. So given the fact that this one had evasion, it won out. I'm not too worried about the reach component because I will hopefully have something that can fly and block in a pinch if I need it. I wasn't real impressed with the White Room. It gives me a 1/1 Glimmer enchantment token, or lets me put +1/+1 counters on each of 2 target creatures. I don't really like permanently boosting my creatures. I want temporary effects to boost my creatures so that I can choose if I want to turn on Arabella or use that effect of the clown doll that makes things unblockable. I already had a Bedhead Beastie. I didn't want a second one. And then, you know, it was kind of a toss-up on this guy. I think if I were doing a traditional game, I might include this. Might come out of sideboard if it was a 2 out of 3 to deal with opponents that have a bunch of card draw. I just didn't like the double red pip. I don't like the idea of having to hit 2 red lands early on to make sure this gets out on turn 2. And then the first strike during my turn, I would have liked to have had first strike both times. I know, I'm being picky. This is a great card. I just didn't feel like playing with it. I thought that the second Ticket Booth and Tunnel of Hate would probably be too much. Just Manifest Dread on its own in this deck's not great. Yeah, it gives me a 2/2 creature. The Tunnel of Hate, if I already had one of these on the battlefield, it wouldn't do anything, right? Double strike isn't quadruple strike. It's just a waste of time. So there you go. Those are the things that got left out. All right. I think that is full review of the deck. I'd be curious to hear if you think that I made the right choice. You know, saw many of the other cards at the beginning of the video and maybe thought, well, maybe I should have done green-blue or blue-black, especially because there was so much removal in that combination paired up with the card draw. What would you do differently? What did you like about what I chose? I'd love to hear it in the comments. I'd love to have a conversation with you in the comments about your choices. If you've made it to the end of the video, by the way, I also have a special surprise bonus. Whoever happens to watch this all the way through to the end first If you happen to play Magic Arena, I've got an unused code here that you can enter in. So go ahead, feel free. I'm not going to enter this in. I used to play Arena all the time. I found it was a little too much time on my phone. I'd rather be messing with real life physical cards. Try this out. See if this will get you that 6 Duskmourn House of Horror boosters in Magic Arena to add to your collection. You never know. So there you go, unexpected bonus if you watched faithfully to the end. That said, this is the end. I hope you keep a lookout for when I actually use this deck. And my plans as we draw near the Halloween holiday is to actually use this deck to face down with a zombie horde. We'll see how that goes. All right, that's it for now, folks.